Cleaner goes to interview with her daughter, but the girl looks at the billionaire and asks, "Can you be my daddy?" What happens next is unbelievable. Nathan Forbes watched from his office window as the yellow cab pulled up to the entrance gate. Autumn had come early this year, and golden leaves danced along the stone path leading to the mansion. He checked his wristwatch. Punctual, at least there was that. The Forbes mansion had been his home his entire life, but since his parents' death 3 years ago, the place felt too big. The staff, one by one, had left their service. Nathan didn't mind. He preferred the solitude. Until the pile of unopened mail, the forgotten meals, and the accumulating dust became impossible to ignore. He needed someone, not for company, just for order. Through the window, he saw a young woman get out of the cab, blonde hair tied in a simple bun, modest but well-kept clothes. She paid the driver and, to Nathan's surprise, reached out a hand to help a small child out of the vehicle. The advertisement had mentioned nothing about children. "Mr. Forbes." The secretary's voice interrupted his thoughts. Margaret was the only staff member left, coming in just 3 times a week. "The candidate for the housekeeper position has arrived." He adjusted his navy blue tie and ran a hand through his impeccably styled blonde hair. "Send her in, Margaret." The solid wood door opened, and Nathan's expression hardened as he saw not one, but 2 people enter his office. The woman he had seen from the window, and beside her, a little girl no older than 5 or 6, also blonde, with large blue eyes that seemed to absorb every detail of the room. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Forbes," the woman began, her voice trembling but determined. "I couldn't find anyone to watch my daughter today. I promise she won't be any trouble." Nathan frowned but gestured to the 2 chairs in front of his desk. The afternoon light streamed through the large window, illuminating the book-filled shelves that lined the walls. "You are Lauren Miller," and she replied, sitting on the edge of her chair as if ready to stand at any moment. "And this is Emma." The little girl smiled widely, revealing a missing front tooth. Unlike her mother, she seemed completely at ease, swinging her little legs that barely touched the floor. "Miss Miller, I specified clearly in the ad that the interview would be individual." Nathan maintained a professional tone, glancing at the folder of documents Margaret had left. "And I also mentioned the need for previous experience in high-end homes." Lauren swallowed hard but held his gaze. "I know, sir. I worked for 5 years at the Winters family home in the neighboring town. Mrs. Winters can confirm my references." She opened her worn purse, searching for a folded paper. "I have a letter from her here." Nathan took the letter, analyzing the letterhead and the elegant signature. He knew the Winters from social events, though he avoided such occasions whenever possible. As he read, little Emma looked around, fascinated by the books. "So many books," the girl exclaimed, her blue eyes shining. "Have you read all of them?" "Emma, don't interrupt," Lauren whispered, giving him an apologetic look. Nathan looked up from the documents, observing the child for a moment. "Is that most of them?" he replied seriously, before turning his attention back to Lauren. "Why did you leave your previous job?" "The family moved to Europe, Mr. Forbes. Mrs. Winters offered to take me with them, but—" She hesitated, glancing at her daughter. "I thought it was better to stay. Starting over would be hard for Emma, in a foreign country." Nathan nodded, flipping through the resume. Lauren Miller, 29, single, 1 child. Experience in household organization, cooking, cleaning. Nothing exceptional, but her references were impeccable. "The position requires full-time availability, Miss Miller. This means living here." Lauren's eyes widened slightly. "Come here. Would that be a problem?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "No, it wouldn't," she answered quickly. "Actually, it would be perfect. Our apartment, well, the rent went up and—" She stopped, straightening her shoulders. "It would be ideal, Mr. Forbes." Nathan watched the way Lauren clutched her purse, her knuckles almost white. Desperation. He knew that look well. She wasn't the first candidate in that situation, but she was the first who seemed genuinely competent. "And what about your daughter's school?" "There's an elementary school a few blocks from here, if I'm not mistaken. And I have savings for the school bus if necessary." While they talked, Emma had slipped off her chair and approached one of the lower shelves. Nathan watched her out of the corner of his eye, noticing how she gently touched the spines of the books with a care unusual for a child her age. "How old is your daughter?" "5. "She'll be 6 next month," Lauren replied, turning to locate Emma. "Emma, come back here, please." The girl obeyed, but instead of returning to the chair next to her mother, she stopped in front of Nathan's desk. Her blue eyes stared at him with genuine curiosity. "You're so handsome," she said, tilting her head to the side. Lauren covered her face with her hands. "Emma!" Nathan felt his face flush, something that hadn't happened in years. He wasn't used to compliments, especially from such a small and direct child. Before he could respond, the girl continued with the brutal sincerity that only children possess. "Can you be my daddy?" The silence that followed was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Lauren shot up, grabbing Emma by the hand, her face now completely red. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Forbes. I'm truly sorry." Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. "I think we should go." Nathan remained motionless for a moment, the child's words echoing in his mind. Something in that innocent question had struck a place he thought had long been dormant. "No," he said finally, standing up. "That's not necessary." Lauren paused, confused, her hand already on the doorknob. "Your daughter is just being honest, Miss Miller. A rare quality these days." He walked around the desk, approaching them. "As for the job, the position is yours if you still want it." Lauren's eyes filled with tears, which she fought to hold back. "Are you serious?" "I never say what I don't mean," he replied, returning to his seat behind the desk. "Margaret will show you the room at the back of the mansion. It's simple, but comfortable. There's enough space for both of you." Lauren seemed unable to believe what she was hearing. Her shoulders, previously tense, visibly relaxed. "The room? You mean we can move in starting today?" "I would prefer it. The house is in urgent need of care." He looked around at the dusty curtains and neglected corners of the office. "And I confess I'm tired of frozen food." A hesitant smile appeared on Lauren's lips. "I can prepare something today if you'd like. We just need to get our things from the apartment. Margaret can take you. Does she know where it is?" Lauren jotted down the address on a piece of paper. "We don't have much," she said, sounding almost ashamed. "Just a few suitcases of clothes and Emma's toys." Nathan nodded, standing up again and pressing a button on the wall. In seconds, Margaret appeared at the door. "Sorry, Margaret. Miss Miller has accepted the position. Please show her to her accommodations and then take her to pick up her belongings." "Yes, Mr. Forbes," the secretary replied, gesturing for Lauren and Emma to follow. "Miss Miller," Nathan called before they left. "One last thing." "Yes?" "I'm allergic to peanuts. Otherwise, I'm not picky about food." Lauren smiled, more relaxed now. "Noted, Mr. Forbes, no peanuts." When the door closed, Nathan returned to the window, looking out at the garden. The flower beds, once impeccable, were now overgrown with weeds. The rose bushes, his mother's pride and joy, survived heroically, but without the necessary care. Perhaps, he thought, it was time to bring some life back to this place. 3 hours later, Nathan heard the sound of Margaret's car returning. From his bedroom window, he watched Lauren and Emma get out of the vehicle, each carrying a suitcase. Margaret brought a cardboard box that seemed to contain some toys. That was it. Their entire life fit into 2 suitcases and a box. For some reason he couldn't explain. That moved him. At dinner time, Nathan went down to the dining room for the first time in weeks. He usually ate in his office or his room, but something compelled him to use the large oak table that night. He was surprised to find the room transformed. The table was set with care, the surfaces gleamed, and a delicious aroma wafted from the kitchen. Lauren appeared carrying a steaming platter. "I hope you like roast chicken with potatoes, Mr. Forbes." She placed the dish on the table. "Emma has already eaten and is putting our things away in the room." Nathan glanced at the clock. It was only 7 in the evening. "You didn't have to go to so much trouble on your first day," he commented, impressed with how quickly she had settled in. "It was no trouble at all," Lauren replied, serving him. "Actually, cooking helps me think, and we had to eat anyway." She had changed out of her interview clothes into a simple but elegant dress. Her hair, now down, fell over her shoulders in soft waves. He tasted the food. It was delicious, well seasoned, homemade, in a way he hadn't experienced since his mother was alive. "This is excellent," he commented, surprising himself with the compliment. Lauren smiled, genuinely happy with the praise. "Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Won't you join me?" he asked, noticing there was only one plate on the table. I wasn't sure if it would be appropriate," she hesitated. "I thought I'd eat in the kitchen with Emma." Nathan put down his fork. In all the homes he had grown up in, the staff always ate separately. It was the custom, the tradition. But suddenly, that seemed strange to him. "Miss Miller, if we are to live together in this house, I'd prefer not to have that kind of formality during meals. Please, have a seat." Lauren looked surprised but nodded. "I'll get another plate. And Emma." Minutes later, Lauren returned with her daughter. Emma was now wearing pink pajamas with a unicorn print, and her hair was in 2 braids. She smiled brightly at Nathan, as if they were old friends. She climbed onto one of the chairs, needing an extra cushion to properly reach the table. "Our house is very big," the girl commented, looking up at the high ceiling with its crystal chandeliers. "You must get lost in here." "Emma," Lauren gently chided, "this is Mr. Forbes's house, not ours." "But he said we could live here," the girl argued, with the simple logic of childhood. "So it's our house too, right?" Nathan watched the interaction between mother and daughter, noticing the strong bond they shared. It was something he had never had with his own parents, who were always too busy with their social lives and business. "Actually," he heard himself say, "your quarters are your home now. Consider it your space." Lauren looked up, surprised by his words. "That's very generous, Mr. Forbes." "It's just practical," he replied quickly, turning his attention back to his plate. "It makes no sense to have staff who don't feel comfortable where they live." But as he said it, his eyes drifted to Emma, who was chewing with concentration, swinging her little legs under the table. There was something about that child, a simplicity, a pure joy he hadn't seen in a long time. "Have you always lived in this house?" Lauren asked, trying to keep the conversation light. "Since I was born," he replied. "My parents traveled a lot, so it was often just me and the staff." That must have been lonely. Nathan had never thought of it that way. Lonely, perhaps, but it was what he knew. "I had my books," he answered simply. "I like books too," Emma chimed in, her eyes shining. "But I don't know how to read by myself yet. Mommy reads to me every night." "Really?" Nathan found himself genuinely interested. "And what kind of stories do you like?" "About princesses who save princes," Emma answered promptly. "And good dragons that make friends with children." Nathan couldn't help a small smile. "I think I have some books like that in the library. Perhaps your mother can take you there tomorrow." Emma's eyes widened with excitement. "Can we really go to the library?" "Of course," he replied. "As long as you treat the books with care." "I'm always careful with books," Emma said seriously. "Mommy taught me they are special friends." Lauren blushed slightly. "We try to visit the public library every week. It was our Saturday plan." "Was?" Nathan questioned. "The library in our neighborhood closed for renovations," Lauren explained. "The next one is too far to walk to." Nathan nodded, thinking of the irony. A house full of books that no one read, and a child who loved stories but had no access to them. At the end of the meal, Lauren stood up to clear the plates. "Let me help you with the dishes," Nathan offered, surprising himself with the suggestion. "Absolutely not, Mr. Forbes," Lauren replied firmly. "You hired a housekeeper precisely so you wouldn't have to worry about these things." She was right, of course. What kind of employer helped their staff with chores? "In that case, good night, Miss Miller." "Emma." "Good night, Mr. Forbes," Lauren replied. "Good night, Mr. Handsome." Emma waved excitedly. Nathan turned to hide the smile that insisted on appearing on his lips. As he climbed the stairs to his room, a thought accompanied him. For the first time in a long time, the mansion felt less empty. In the second-floor hallway, he stopped in front of the room that had been his in childhood. Now used as a storage room, it was filled with boxes and old furniture. Somewhere in there, he knew, was a trunk with his old children's books. Books his mother had rarely had time to read to him. Tomorrow, he decided, he would ask Margaret to find them. Maybe Emma would like stories about pirates and space adventures, the ones he had loved so much as a boy. In his room, Nathan stood before the large window overlooking the back garden. From there, he could see a light on in the quarters where Lauren and Emma now lived. For a moment, he imagined the scene inside that small room. Lauren unpacking the few clothes they had, Emma exploring the new space. A family, small, incomplete perhaps, but a family. And in the silence of his room, Emma's innocent question echoed in his mind. "Can you be my daddy?" Absurd, he thought, completely inappropriate. He was just her employer, nothing more. And yet, for some reason he couldn't explain, that simple question had found an empty space inside him, a space he didn't even know existed. Nathan moved away from the window and began to prepare for bed. Tomorrow would be just another day, a day with a cleaner house and decent meals, nothing more. He didn't need company, connection, or family. He was perfectly fine on his own, or at least that's what he tried to tell himself, as sleep finally took him, lulled by the distant sound of a child's laughter coming from the garden. 2 weeks had passed since Lauren and Emma's arrival at the Forbes mansion. Autumn progressed, painting the trees in shades of red and gold, while the house, once steeped in silence, began to awaken from its long slumber. Nathan noticed the subtle changes in the first few days. It wasn't just the clean surfaces or the polished furniture. Something deeper was happening within those old walls. The mansion seemed to be breathing again. On Sunday morning, he came downstairs and stopped, surprised by the aroma coming from the kitchen, cinnamon and apple. The scent brought back memories he thought were forgotten, Sundays from his childhood, when the family cook would bake pies and the house would fill with sweet smells. He followed the scent to find Lauren in the kitchen, her hands covered in flour. "Good morning, Mr. Forbes," she smiled, pushing a strand of blonde hair from her face with the back of her hand. "I hope you don't mind. Emma loves apple pancakes on Sundays." Nathan looked at the kitchen table, where small stacks of golden pancakes awaited, next to a pitcher of maple syrup. "Not at all," he replied, surprised by his own voice, softer than usual. "It looks delicious." "There's enough for you too," Lauren offered. "Emma is still asleep. She likes to sleep in on Sundays." Nathan hesitated. His usual routine would be to grab a cup of coffee and return to his office. Work. Always work. But the aroma was irresistible. "I think I'll take you up on that," he said finally, sitting at the kitchen table instead of in the formal dining room. Lauren served him a stack of pancakes and a cup of coffee, just the way he liked it. Strong, no sugar. She had already noticed his habits, he realized. Observant. "The house is becoming different," he commented, after a few minutes of comfortable silence. Lauren stopped what she was doing and looked at him. "Different how?" "More." "Alive?" he replied, not knowing how to explain it better. Lauren smiled and understanding. "Houses are like people, Mr. Forbes. They need attention and care to flourish." After breakfast, Nathan headed to his office, as he always did. But this time, he left the door ajar. A small change, almost imperceptible to anyone else, but significant for him. The mansion was no longer a place where he hid from the world. It was becoming a home again. Over the following week, the signs of transformation multiplied. Small vases with wildflowers appeared in various rooms, nothing extravagant, just simple daisies or dandelions, likely picked by Emma in the garden. The piano in the music room, covered by years of dust, now gleamed under the light streaming through the newly cleaned windows. One afternoon, passing by the room, Nathan heard hesitant notes coming from the instrument. He stopped at the door, watching Lauren try to teach her daughter to play a simple melody. Emma's small fingers pressed the keys with concentration, her serious face illuminated by a ray of sunlight coming through the window. "Very good, honey," Lauren praised when the girl managed to play the sequence correctly. "You're learning fast." Nathan stepped back before they noticed his presence. That wasn't his scene to share. It was a moment between a mother and her daughter, intimate and precious. But the simple melody followed him as he returned to his office, and he found himself humming it while reviewing contracts and answering emails. At night, the sounds of the house changed as well. The absolute silence, once only broken by the ticking of antique clocks, now shared space with other sounds. The soft shuffle of slippers in the hallway, the low murmur of Lauren telling Emma stories before bed, occasional muffled laughter, the sounds of life. In the third week, after a heavy rain, the sun appeared timidly between the clouds. From his office window, Nathan saw Emma run into the back garden, wearing yellow rubber boots and a colorful jacket. The girl jumped in puddles with unbridled joy, laughing every time the water splashed in all directions. Nathan set his pen aside and approached the window. Emma had given up on the puddles and was now carefully examining a rose bush. The few remaining roses seemed to fascinate the child. Without picking them, she just leaned in to smell their perfume, with a gentleness that again surprised Nathan. The girl then picked up a stick and began to draw in the wet soil of the flower bed. From his privileged position, Nathan could see that she was trying to draw a house. A large house with many windows and 3 figures in front, one small, one medium, and one large. Something strange happened in Nathan's chest at that moment. A tightness, an almost physical sensation he couldn't name. Without realizing it, his fingers touched the window pane, as if they could pass through it and reach the scene below. Emma continued to play, now running in circles, chasing a butterfly that had appeared after the rain. Her blonde hair shone in the sun, and her crystal-clear laughter reached his office, even with the windows closed. Nathan didn't realize how long he stood there watching. Minutes. An hour. Time seemed different when he watched Emma. The pile of work on his desk was forgotten, as his eyes followed the child's every move, the way she bent down to examine a snail, how she spoke to the flowers as if they were people, how she danced without music, just for the pleasure of feeling her body in motion. For the first time in a long time, perhaps since childhood, Nathan felt something beyond the indifference he had cultivated as a shield. It was curiosity. Curiosity about this little person who saw the world with eyes so different from his own. What did she see when she looked at a snail? What did she imagine while dancing alone in the garden? A light knock on the door brought him back to reality. "Mr. Forbes," Lauren entered with a tray. "I brought your tea and some cookies. It's past 4. Nathan quickly moved away from the window, returning to his desk as if he had been caught doing something wrong. "Thank you, Miss Miller," he replied formally, though his voice betrayed an unusual emotion. Lauren placed the tray on the desk and went to the window to adjust the curtain. Her eyes found her daughter in the garden. "She loves this garden," she commented, a smile on her lips. "She says it's magical, like in fairy tale books." "Magical," Nathan repeated, allowing himself to look out the window again. "Emma has a very vivid imagination," Lauren explained. "So to her, the roses are enchanted princesses, and the birds are messengers from distant kingdoms." Nathan watched the girl, who was now sitting on the grass, apparently talking to a line of ants. "I never had much of an imagination," he admitted. "Even as a child. Maybe you didn't have the chance to develop it," Lauren suggested, with a kindness that didn't sound like criticism. "Some children have to grow up too fast." Their eyes met briefly, and Nathan had the uncomfortable feeling that she could see right through him, seeing the lonely boy he once was, always trying to meet the expectations of his absent parents. "Well, I'll let you get back to work," Lauren said, breaking the moment. "Dinner will be served at 7, if that's all right." "Perfectly," he replied, returning to his work as soon as she left. But his thoughts kept returning to the garden, to the girl in yellow boots who talked to ants and saw magic where he only saw common plants. In the days that followed, Nathan found himself increasingly watching Emma from a distance. From the office on the porch, through the library windows, he never approached, never participated. But his eyes followed her, fascinated by the child's endless energy and curiosity. One morning, while having coffee on the porch, he saw Lauren and Emma heading into the garden with small baskets. They were picking flowers. Lauren was showing her daughter which flowers could be picked and how to cut them without damaging the plant. Emma listened attentively, absorbing every word as if it were the most important lesson in the world. Later, upon entering the dining room for lunch, Nathan found the table decorated with simple arrangements of those same flowers: white daisies, small purple flowers he couldn't name, and a few sprigs of lavender. In the center of the table, a handmade card with childish, uneven letters read, "To make the house pretty." "Emma insisted on making a card," Lauren explained, entering the room with a platter. "I hope you don't mind the flowers." "They're nice," he replied, lightly touching the petals of a daisy. "She asked if you would like to help her plant some sunflower seeds tomorrow," Lauren continued, her voice hesitant. "I told her you were busy, but she wanted to ask anyway." Nathan felt that same tightness in his chest. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to sit in the garden with Emma and plant sunflowers. But something held him back, years of emotional distance and of carefully built walls. "I have a lot of commitments tomorrow," he finally replied. "Perhaps another time." Lauren's look of disappointment was brief but noticeable. "Of course, I understand completely." That night, while working in his office, Nathan heard laughter coming from the kitchen. He stood up and walked silently down the hall, stopping at the kitchen door unnoticed. Lauren and Emma were making cookies. The kitchen was a lovely mess, flour scattered on the counter, drops of dough on the floor, utensils everywhere. Emma, her face smudged with flour, was using a rolling pin almost bigger than her arms to flatten the cookie dough. "This one is for Mr. Forbes," she was saying, carefully cutting the dough with a star-shaped cookie cutter. "Because he looks sad sometimes, and cookies always make me happy when I'm sad." "That's very kind of you, honey," Lauren replied, helping her place the cookie on the baking sheet. "I'm sure he'll like it." "Do you think he likes us, Mommy?" Emma asked, with the innocence and insight that only children possess. Lauren paused, thoughtful. "I think Mr. Forbes is getting used to us. Some people take longer to open up." "Like turtles?" Emma asked. "Are they hide in their shells when they're scared, but they come out when they feel it's safe?" Lauren laughed, kissing the top of her daughter's head. "Exactly like turtles." Nathan backed away silently, returning to his office. The comparison to a turtle should have offended him, but instead he found himself smiling. Maybe the girl was right. Maybe he was like a turtle, hidden in his shell, waiting for the moment to feel it was safe to come out. As he sat back down at his desk, Nathan looked at the mansion around him. It was no longer the cold, silent place of a few weeks ago. There were flowers in vases, occasional music from the piano, the constant aroma of homemade food, small muddy footprints occasionally forgotten on the hall rug. The house was coming to life. And, though he tried to deny it, so was he. The rain fell steadily outside, turning the garden of the Forbes mansion into a melancholic autumn scene. Nathan absent-mindedly scanned the numbers on his computer screen, while the sound of raindrops hitting the window created a monotonous melody. Tax reports, investments, business emails, the routine he had built over the years as a fortress against the outside world. 3 soft knocks on the door interrupted his concentration. "Come in," he said, without looking up. The door opened slowly, but it wasn't Lauren with the afternoon tea as he expected. Instead, a small figure with blonde hair and blue eyes peeked shyly through the crack. "May I come in, Mr. Forbes?" Emma asked, her voice almost a whisper. Nathan looked up, surprised. It was the first time the girl had come to his office alone. Lauren usually kept her away while he was working. "Does your mother know you're here?" he asked, more out of habit than real concern. Emma nodded vigorously. "She's baking a cake. She said I could come if I didn't bother you too much." Nathan hesitated for a moment. He had work to do, deadlines to meet. But something in the girl's hopeful face stopped him from sending her away. "All right, come in." The smile that spread across Emma's face did something strange to Nathan's chest. It was as if a small ray of sunshine had found its way through the storm clouds outside and settled directly in his heart. The girl entered, holding something behind her back. She wore denim overalls and a pink shirt, and her hair was in 2 uneven braids. She probably tried to do them herself, Nathan thought. "What do you have there?" he asked, gesturing to the girl's hidden hands. Emma bit her lower lip, suddenly shy. "It's a present for you." "For me?" She nodded, approaching the desk with cautious steps. Then, with a quick movement, she placed a crumpled piece of paper on top of the pile of documents he was reviewing. Nathan looked at the paper, not quite sure what to do. He was used to receiving reports, contracts, not presents from 5-year-old children. Slowly, he picked up the paper and unfolded it. It was a drawing made with crayons. In it, 2 figures stood out, a small one with yellow hair and a pink dress, clearly Emma, and a tall one with blonde hair and a blue suit, obviously himself. The figures were holding hands in front of a gigantic house that he recognized as the mansion. In the sky, a large yellow sun was smiling, and disproportionate birds flew among pink clouds. In the bottom corner of the paper, in childish, uneven letters, was written, "We could be friends." Nathan felt a lump in his throat. He couldn't remember the last time someone had made a drawing for him. Perhaps never. Do you like it?" Emma asked, her voice betraying her anxiety. Nathan realized he had been silent for too long, staring at the drawing. "It's very beautiful, Emma," he finally replied, surprised by the sincerity in his own voice. "You draw very well." The girl's face lit up with the compliment. "Mommy helped me with the letters, but I did the rest myself." She moved closer, pointing to the drawing. "This is you in a suit, and this is me. We're happy because we're friends." "Friends," Nathan repeated, the word sounding strange on his lips. Emma nodded seriously, as if explaining something very important. "Yes, Mommy says friends are people who like to be together and care about each other." She tilted her head, observing him. "I like being with you, even when you're quiet. And I care if you're sad or happy." Nathan didn't know what to say. How could he explain to a 5-year-old that he had spent the last few years building walls around himself, that he no longer knew how to be friends with anyone? "Why do you think I'm sad?" he asked instead. Emma shrugged, in a surprisingly adult gesture. "Your eyes look sad sometimes, like Mrs. Wilson's at the grocery store. Mommy says she lost her husband and that's why she's sad." The girl's insight surprised him. She was able to see what many adults missed. "I'm not sad exactly," Nathan tried to explain. "Just used to being alone." "But you're not alone anymore," Emma said, with the simple logic of childhood. "Now you have me and Mommy." Before Nathan could respond, Lauren appeared at the door, looking slightly worried. "Emma, wasn't the deal that you'd just deliver the drawing and come back to the kitchen?" She looked at Nathan with an apologetic expression. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Forbes. I hope she's not bothering you." "She's not," he replied, surprising both himself and Lauren. "In fact, we were having an interesting conversation." Lauren's eyes widened, clearly surprised by the response. "Even so, Emma, the cake is almost ready. Let's let Mr. Forbes work." The girl nodded, but before leaving, she looked at Nathan one last time. "Are you going to keep my drawing?" Nathan looked at the crumpled paper in his hands. Under normal circumstances, he would have put it in a drawer and probably forgotten about it, but something compelled him to fold the drawing carefully and place it in the inside pocket of his suit jacket, close to his heart. "I'll keep it here," he replied, patting his chest. "To remind me that I have a friend." The smile Emma gave him then was like a small sun exploding in the room. The girl skipped out, following her mother back to the kitchen. Nathan remained seated, his hand unconsciously over the pocket where he had put the drawing. A simple, almost automatic gesture, but one that somehow seemed to mark an important moment. As if an invisible line had been drawn in his life, before and after the drawing. That night, as he prepared for bed, Nathan took off his jacket and, out of habit, emptied his pockets. Emma's drawing appeared among receipts and business cards. He unfolded it again, observing the colorful figures under the soft light of the lamp. "Thanks, we could be friends." How long had it been since he'd had a friend? Since college, perhaps. Professional relationships? Yes. Acquaintances? Many. But friends. People with whom he shared not just time, but feelings. He couldn't remember. Instead of throwing the drawing away or storing it in a drawer, Nathan opened his nightstand drawer and placed the paper there, carefully smoothing its creases. His last thought before falling asleep was the image of those 2 figures holding hands under a smiling sun. The next morning, as he came down for breakfast, Nathan found Emma alone in the dining room, already seated at the table, swinging her legs as she waited. "Good morning, Mr. Forbes," she greeted him cheerfully. "Good morning, Emma," he replied, taking his usual seat. "Mommy is finishing up breakfast. She let me come ahead to set the table," the girl explained, proudly pointing to the carefully arranged silverware and napkins. "You did a good job," Nathan commented, noticing how she had put everything in the right place, despite her age. "Did you really like my drawing?" Emma asked, and changing the subject abruptly, as children often do. "I did," he confirmed. "In fact, I kept it in my room." The girl's face lit up. "Really? I can make more drawings for you if you want. I know how to draw dogs, cats, unicorns." She paused. "Do you have a favorite animal, Mr. Forbes?" Nathan thought for a moment. "I like horses," he replied, remembering when he used to ride on the family estate as a young man. "Do you know how to draw horses?" "I've never tried," Emma admitted, frowning in concentration. "But I can learn. Can you show me what they look like?" Before he could think too much, Nathan found himself responding, "I have some books about horses in the library. We can take a look after breakfast if you'd like." The words left his mouth before he could stop them. Was he really inviting a 5-year-old to look at books with him? But Emma's radiant smile was worth the momentary confusion. "I'd love that," she exclaimed, just as Lauren entered the room, carrying a tray with breakfast. "Love what, honey?" Lauren asked, placing the tray on the table. "Mr. Forbes is going to show me books about horses in the library," Emma announced, nearly bouncing in her chair with excitement. "I'm going to learn how to draw horses for him." Lauren looked at Nathan, a silent question in her eyes. He gave a slight nod, confirming, "That's very kind of you, Mr. Forbes," Lauren said, unable to completely hide the surprise in her voice. Breakfast proceeded in a different atmosphere than usual. Instead of the polite silence that normally hung over the table, Emma filled the room with her childish chatter, talking about her dreams, her classes at the new school, the drawing she planned to make. Nathan found himself answering questions, making small comments, even smiling occasionally. After breakfast, he found Emma waiting eagerly at the library door, just as they had arranged. The girl naturally took his hand as they entered the large room filled with shelves, a gesture that caught him off guard, but wasn't unpleasant. "Wow," she exclaimed, looking up at the high ceiling and the shelves that seemed to stretch to infinity. "It's like a library from a fairy tale castle." Nathan found himself seeing the library through her eyes, no longer just a repository of books and knowledge, but a magical place, full of stories and possibilities. They found a large illustrated book about horses, and Nathan sat in an armchair near the window. To his surprise, Emma immediately climbed into his lap, as if it were the most natural place in the world for her to be. For a moment, he tensed, unaccustomed to physical contact, but soon the warmth of the little girl, her scent of soap, and the light weight of her body against his created a strangely comfortable sensation. Together, they flipped through the book, Nathan explaining the different breeds of horses, showing the detailed illustrations. Emma listened with absolute attention, asking surprisingly intelligent questions for her age. When they finished, she asked for paper and pencils to try drawing a horse right there. Nathan provided the materials and watched as she, with her tongue sticking out in concentration, tried to reproduce the image of a black Arabian they had seen in the book. The result was, of course, very different from the original illustration, more like an elongated dog with a strange mane, but the girl's effort and dedication moved him. "That looks great, Emma," he praised sincerely, for a first try. "It doesn't look like it," she replied, wrinkling her nose in disappointment, "but I'll practice more. You know, when I was a kid, I couldn't draw well on the first try either," Nathan shared, surprised at himself for revealing something from his past. "So I had to try many times. Did you draw when you were little?" Emma asked, her eyes wide as if she couldn't imagine Nathan as a child. "Yes, I quite enjoyed it. But then—" He paused, realizing he was about to say that then he grew up and stopped with childish nonsense, as his father used to call it. "Then I got busy with other things." "What things?" "School. Work and responsibilities." Emma pondered this for a moment. "You should start drawing again," she declared finally. "We could draw together. It would be fun." Nathan felt an involuntary smile form on his lips. "Maybe," he replied, surprising himself with his own answer. "Maybe one of these days. When Lauren came looking for Emma an hour later, she found something she never expected to see. Nathan Forbes, the ever-serious and distant employer, sitting on the library floor with her daughter, both surrounded by papers with drawings of horses in various stages of success and failure, laughing together at a particularly comical attempt. She paused at the door, not wanting to interrupt the moment. There was something so precious, so unexpected in that scene, that she felt as if she were witnessing a small miracle. Nathan looked up and saw her. For a moment, he seemed embarrassed, as if caught doing something improper. But then, instead of quickly composing himself or making an excuse, he simply smiled at her. A genuine smile that reached his eyes, lighting up his face in a way she had never seen before. "We're drawing horses," he explained, with a simplicity that seemed to come directly from the childhood that was once his. Lauren smiled back, feeling something warm and unexpected blossom in her chest. "I see that, and it looks like you're having fun." "We are," Emma confirmed, holding up one of her drawings. "Mr. Forbes said my horse looks like a dog with a mane, but that it's getting better." The three of them laughed together, and in that moment, something fundamental changed within the Forbes mansion. What had begun with a crumpled drawing tucked away in a jacket pocket had turned into something more. A bridge being built, a heart beginning to thaw, the start of a friendship that none of them had expected, but that all of them, somehow, desperately needed. In the following days, Nathan found himself actively seeking out Emma's company. In small moments stolen between meetings and business calls, he allowed himself to sit with her in the library, answer her endless questions, or simply watch her as she drew or played with the dolls Lauren had brought from their old apartment. On a particularly cold afternoon, Nathan found Emma sitting alone on the living room window seat, watching the rain with a melancholic expression. "Is everything all right?" he asked, approaching. Emma sighed, a surprisingly adult sound coming from such a small child. "I'm bored. I wish I could play outside, but it's raining." Nathan looked at the rain beating against the window. Suddenly, he remembered something he used to do as a child on days like this. "Come with me," he said, holding out his hand to her. "I have an idea." He took her to the kitchen, where he asked Lauren for permission to borrow Emma for an hour. With a curious look, Lauren agreed. Nathan then led the girl to the attic, a huge, dusty place he rarely visited. "What are we doing here?" Emma asked, looking around with a mix of fear and excitement. "Looking for treasure," Nathan answered mysteriously, as he rummaged through an old trunk. "Here. I found it." He pulled out what looked like an old toy, a small wooden puppet theater, with velvet red curtains faded by time. "What is that?" Emma asked, approaching curiously. "A puppet theater. It was mine when I was about your age," Nathan explained, blowing the dust off the object. "My mother bought it on a trip to Italy." "And the puppets?" Emma asked, looking around. Nathan went back to the trunk and found several old puppets, a prince, a princess, a dragon, a knight, and other fairy tale figures. "Let's set it up in your room," he suggested, "and then we can create a story." Emma's eyes sparkled with excitement. "A story about what?" Nathan thought for a moment. "How about a very brave princess who saves a prince from a bad dragon?" "Yes," Emma exclaimed, clapping her hands. "And we can put a horse in it too." They spent the rest of the afternoon in Emma's room, setting up the little theater and creating an elaborate story. Nathan manipulated some puppets, while Emma handled the others, inventing dialogue and situations that made them laugh until their stomachs hurt. Lauren passed by the open door once, carrying clean clothes, and paused, watching the scene with a soft smile on her lips. Nathan saw her, but this time he didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, he gestured for her to join them. "Princess Emma needs help to defeat the terrible dragon," he explained, with a feigned seriousness that made Lauren laugh. "In that case, I think I need to help," she replied, sitting on the floor beside them and picking up one of the puppets. Together, the three of them finished the story, with the brave Princess Emma, Prince Nathan, and the fairy Lauren defeating the dragon and living happily ever after in an enchanted castle. When they finally put the theater and puppets away, it was already dinner time. Nathan was surprised to realize how much time had passed, and how he hadn't thought about work even once all afternoon. He was even more surprised to notice that he didn't care. Something was changing inside him, slowly but surely. Like ice beginning to melt after a long winter, his heart was opening, letting in feelings he hadn't experienced in a long time. Joy, tenderness, the sense of belonging to something bigger than himself. And it had all started with a crumpled drawing in his jacket pocket, a simple piece of paper that, without him realizing it at the time, would change his heart forever. The library of the Forbes mansion was bathed in the golden light of late afternoon when Nathan found Emma sitting alone in one of the large leather armchairs, flipping through an illustrated book. In recent weeks, the library had become the girl's favorite retreat. Whenever she finished her chores, tidying up her toys or helping her mother with small tasks, that's where Nathan would find her, lost among the colorful pages of the children's books he had unearthed from the attic. He approached silently, watching how she ran her little fingers over the illustrations with an expression of absolute concentration. The scene warmed his heart in a way that still surprised him. "Enjoying the story?" he asked, sitting in the armchair next to her. Emma looked up, her face lighting up with a smile. "It's very nice. It has a dragon who makes friends with a girl." She turned the book to show him the illustration of a green dragon and a little girl in a red dress. "Eliza and the Emerald Dragon," Nathan read the title on the cover. "It was one of my favorite books when I was your age." "Can you read it to me?" Emma asked, holding the book out to him. "The letters are small, and I don't know all of them yet." Nathan took the book, but before he started reading, he looked at Emma with curiosity. "You already know some letters?" Emma nodded proudly. "I know the E and the M from my name. And the A too. Mommy showed me. And at school, aren't they teaching the alphabet?" The girl looked down, suddenly interested in a loose thread on her shirt. "I don't go to school," she murmured, so quietly that Nathan could barely hear. "What do you mean?" he asked, confused. "I thought your mother said you were enrolled in the local elementary school." Emma shook her head, still not looking at him. "Mommy tried, but they said there were no more spots this year, and the other school is too far away." Nathan felt a pang in his chest. Emma was almost 6 years old and wasn't attending school. In his mind, an image formed of the girl falling behind while other children her age were already learning to read and write. "So, you've never been to school?" he asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. "I went once," Emma replied, finally looking at him. "Last year, but only for a week. Then we had to move and Mommy said I would go to another school, but it didn't work out." Nathan tried to hide his surprise. Lauren had mentioned financial difficulties, but he hadn't imagined the situation was so complicated as to affect Emma's education. "And can you read anything?" he asked gently. Emma bit her lower lip, suddenly looking ashamed. "I can't read," she confessed in a whisper. "I only know some letters, and I can count to 10. Something inside Nathan tightened. The intelligent, curious girl who spent hours among books couldn't read them. She only admired the illustrations and imagined the stories. "Would you like to learn?" The words left his mouth before he could think. Emma's eyes widened, shining with hope. "Can you teach me?" "Of course I can," he replied, surprised by his own certainty. "We can start right now, if you want." "Now?" Emma almost jumped out of the armchair with excitement. Nathan smiled, infected by the girl's enthusiasm. "Why not?" He stood up, walking to one of the shelves. "We'll need some different materials than these books. Wait here." He left the library and returned minutes later with a notepad, colored pencils, and a ruler. Emma watched him with attentive eyes, as if she were about to witness a great spectacle. "First, we're going to learn how to write your full name," Nathan said, sitting beside her at a small table. "What's your last name, Emma?" "Miller," she replied. "Like Mommy's." "Emma Miller," Nathan repeated, writing the name in large letters at the top of the page. "See, there are 10 letters in total. And look, there are 2 letter M's at the beginning of each name." Emma watched and fascinated as Nathan explained each letter, its sound, and how they formed her name together. He then drew dotted lines forming the letters and handed her the pencil. "Now try tracing over the lines I made." Lines. "It's like drawing, but with letters." With her tongue between her teeth in deep concentration, Emma held the pencil tightly and began to carefully trace the dotted lines. Her first E came out crooked, the M looked more like a set of mountains, but when she finished writing Emma, her face lit up with a smile of pure pride. "I wrote my name," she exclaimed, holding up the paper like a trophy. "Yes, you did," Nathan confirmed, feeling a wave of satisfaction he hadn't experienced in years. "Very good, Emma. Now let's try Miller." Oh. The lesson continued for almost an hour. Nathan was impressed by the girl's determination. She didn't give up even when she made mistakes. By the end of the session, she could write her full name recognizably, though still with difficulty. "You did very well for your first lesson," he praised as they put away the materials. "We can continue tomorrow, if you'd like." "Yes, I do," Emma replied enthusiastically. "Can I learn all the letters and how to read too?" "In time, yes," Nathan assured her. "You'll learn all of that and much more." That night, after Emma had gone to bed, Nathan asked Lauren to join him in the office. He needed to better understand the girl's educational situation. "Emma told me today that she has never regularly attended school," he began, getting straight to the point. "Is that true?" Lauren paled slightly, looking embarrassed. "Yes, it's true," she admitted, sitting in the chair across from Nathan's desk. "I tried to enroll her several times, but obstacles always came up. First, it was the financial issue, then the lack of spots. And when I finally got a spot, we had to move because of the rent increase." "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Lauren looked down. "I was afraid you'd think I was a negligent mother. I try to teach her what I can at home, but with work, I don't always have the time or energy." Nathan watched her for a moment. There was no judgment in his eyes, only concern. "I started teaching Emma to write her name today," he said. "She learned quickly. She's a very smart child." Lauren's face lit up with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. "You did that. She must have been so happy." "She was," Nathan confirmed. "And I also realized she has enormous potential. Emma deserves a proper education." "I know," Lauren sighed, suddenly looking tired. "I'll try again at the local school. Maybe if I explain the situation—" "That won't be necessary," Nathan interrupted. "I have a proposal." Lauren looked at him, curious. "What proposal?" "I can teach Emma until the next school year, when we can certainly get her a spot in a good school," he explained. "I have the time, and frankly, it will be a pleasure. Emma is an enthusiastic student." Lauren's eyes filled with tears. "Are you serious? You would do that for her?" Nathan nodded, surprised by his own determination. "It's no sacrifice," he said sincerely. "In fact, I think it will be good for both of us." Lauren couldn't contain her emotion. A tear rolled down her face. "Dad, I don't know how to thank you." "There's no need," he replied, uncomfortable with the intensity of her gratitude. "It's just what anyone would do." But they both knew that wasn't true. It wasn't what anyone would do. It was something far more significant. In the days that followed, the Forbes Mansion's library transformed into a small classroom. Nathan set up a specific area with a low table, comfortable chairs, and shelves now dedicated to educational materials he had ordered: alphabet primers, simple textbooks, handwriting workbooks, colored pencils, paints, and even a small blackboard. The lessons usually took place in the morning, when Emma's mind was freshest. Nathan discovered he had a patience he never knew he possessed, explaining the same concept multiple times if necessary, always finding new ways to make learning fun when the girl seemed to lose interest. In just 2 weeks, Emma already knew all the letters of the alphabet and was beginning to form simple syllables. Her eyes shone with pride whenever she managed to read a whole word on her own. "Housey," she spelled out on a sunny morning, pointing to a picture of a little house in the book. "House. I read it. Mr. Forbes. I read it all by myself." Nathan felt a wave of emotion so intense it almost left him breathless. Emma's smile, the sparkle in her blue eyes, the pure joy of her achievement, it all hit him in a way he hadn't expected. "Very good, Emma," he praised, unable to contain his own smile. "I'm very proud of you." The girl got up from her chair and, on impulse, threw her arms around Nathan's neck in a tight hug. It was such a spontaneous, affectionate gesture that for a moment he was frozen. Then, slowly, he returned the hug, feeling the warmth of the little girl against his chest. In that instant, something became clear to Nathan. What had started as simple help was turning into something much bigger. He wasn't just teaching Emma to read and write, he was giving her tools for the future, a future that suddenly he felt responsible for helping to build. At night, alone in his room, Nathan reflected on this revelation as he flipped through Emma's exercise books. Each crooked letter, each incomplete word, each small progress documented on those pages moved him in a way he couldn't explain. The truth was that Emma had awakened something in him he thought was dead, the desire to protect, to care, to make a difference in someone's life. He, who had always lived focused only on himself and his business, now found himself planning the educational future of a child who, a few months ago, was a complete stranger. The following week, without saying anything to Lauren or Emma, Nathan began researching the best private schools in the area. He made calls, scheduled visits, analyzed educational curricula. He wanted to make sure that, when the time came, Emma would have access to the best possible education. Meanwhile, the lessons continued. Numbers, colors, simple geometric shapes. The world of knowledge opened up for Emma, and Nathan delighted in being her guide. "Oh, I get it," from the girl was like a small gift he received. One afternoon, after a particularly productive lesson on simple addition, Nathan watched Emma drawing peacefully in a corner of the library. She had learned to write her name correctly and now put it on all her drawings, like a little artist's signature. "What are you drawing?" he asked, approaching. Emma held up the paper for him to see. It was a drawing of 3 people, a blonde woman, a small girl, and a tall man in a suit. "It's us," she explained simply. "You, me, and Mommy, in our house. Our house." The words echoed in Nathan's mind. For Emma, the Forbes mansion had become a home, and he somehow had become part of her family. "Nurse, it's very beautiful," he commented, feeling a lump in his throat. "Will you teach me forever?" Emma asked suddenly, looking at him with those penetrating blue eyes. "Well, eventually you'll go to a real school," Nathan explained, sitting beside her, "with other teachers and other children your age. But will you still help me with my lessons?" she insisted. "So of course," he assured her, surprised by the naturalness of the promise. "Whenever you need it." Emma smiled, satisfied, and returned to her drawing. Nathan stayed by her side, watching her color the sky blue. Suddenly, he felt an absolute certainty. He was committed to this child's future. Not just her formal education, but her happiness, her dreams, her opportunities. Emma Miller, the little girl who had once innocently asked if he could be her father, had found a way into his heart. And now he was determined to offer her much more than just company or improvised lessons. He could give Emma a future. And without realizing it, she had already given him something equally precious, a purpose. Night fell over the Forbes mansion, enveloping it in soft shadows and silence. Nathan closed his laptop after long hours of work in his office. His eyes burned from the prolonged concentration, and a persistent ache had settled in his temples. He looked at the clock. It was past midnight. He decided that a cup of tea might help him relax before bed. He went downstairs silently, avoiding the steps he knew would creak. The hallway leading to the kitchen was dark, except for a faint yellow light escaping through the slightly ajar door. Someone was awake. He pushed the door open gently and found Lauren sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of tea between her hands. She wore a light blue robe over her pajamas, and her blonde hair fell loosely over her shoulders. She seemed lost in thought, her gaze fixed on the window that reflected her own face in the dark glass. "Sorry," Nathan said, causing her to startle slightly. "I didn't mean to scare you." Lauren smiled, quickly composing herself. "It's all right, Mr. Forbes, I was just thinking." "Nathan," he corrected, walking to the cabinet to get a cup. "I think at this point, after so many months, you can call me by my first name, at least when it's just the two of us." She seemed surprised but nodded. "Nathan," she repeated, as if testing how the words sounded in her voice. "May I join you?" he asked, gesturing to the still steaming kettle on the stove. "Of course," Lauren replied. "The tea is still hot." Nathan poured himself a cup and sat down at the table, across from her. For a few moments, they both remained silent, enjoying the comfort of the warm drink and each other's quiet company. "Is Emma sleeping well?" he finally asked. Lauren smiled, that soft smile that always appeared when she spoke of her daughter. "Like a rock. Today was a busy day for her with all those fractions you taught." "She's very smart," Nathan commented, with genuine pride in his voice. "She learns everything quickly." "She takes after her father in that respect," Lauren said, and immediately her face clouded over, as if she regretted mentioning the subject. Nathan hesitated, unsure if he should continue that line of conversation. In the months that Lauren and Emma had lived there, the girl's father was never mentioned. It was as if he simply didn't exist, a ghostly figure that hovered in the shadows of their stories, but never took shape or name. But something in Lauren's distant expression that night, in the solitude of the kitchen lit only by the small lamp over the stove, made Nathan feel that perhaps it was time to ask. "Emma never talks about her father," he commented carefully. Lauren let out a long sigh, turning the cup in her hands. "There's not much to talk about, really." Nathan waited, without pushing. After a few moments, Lauren continued, her voice low and controlled. "It was a relationship, I believed him. But when I found out I was pregnant, he just left me. He never came back, never cared." The words hung in the silent kitchen. Nathan felt a wave of anger toward this unknown man, followed by a deep sadness for the pain he saw in Lauren's eyes. "So I'm sorry," he said sincerely. Lauren shrugged, trying to seem indifferent, but the tension in her shoulders revealed the pain that was still present. "It's been a long time. I was lucky in many ways. My parents supported me at first, although they couldn't help much financially. I managed to finish my basic studies and find work. Many women face worse situations." "That doesn't diminish what you went through," Nathan observed. Lauren looked up, meeting his eyes. There was a vulnerability there that he rarely saw. "Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing by never trying to find him again. For Emma, you know? Every child deserves to know their father." "Not every man deserves to be a father," Nathan replied, with a firmness that surprised them both. A brief smile touched Lauren's lips. "That's true." She took a sip of tea before continuing. "It was hard at first. Emma used to ask about him when she was younger. Now she rarely brings it up. What do you say when she asks?" "The truth in a way she can understand, that he wasn't ready to be a father, and that sometimes adults make decisions that hurt other people." Nathan nodded, admiring Lauren's honesty with her daughter. "You're an amazing mother, Lauren," he said, the words coming out before he could think. She blushed slightly, lowering her eyes. "I just do the best I can. And it's more than enough. Emma is proof of that. She's happy, smart, confident. All thanks to you." "Not just me," Lauren corrected, looking at him directly. "You've been important to her, to both of us." The silence that followed had a different weight, charged with unspoken meanings. Nathan felt an almost irresistible urge to reach out and touch Lauren's hand, which rested on the table. He held back, uncertain of the boundaries that still existed between them. "Well," Lauren said finally, standing up and taking her cup to the sink, "I'd better get to bed. I have to wake up early tomorrow to make breakfast before your meeting." "Of course," Nathan agreed, also standing. "Thanks for the tea, and for the conversation." She smiled, that gentle smile that lit up her eyes. "Good night, Nathan." "Good night, Lauren." As he climbed the stairs to his room, Nathan couldn't get the story Lauren had shared out of his mind. The image of a younger Lauren, facing pregnancy alone, abandoned by someone who should have supported her, made his heart ache. In his room, he stood before the window, watching the moon bathe the garden in its silvery light. Tonight's conversation had awakened in him an even stronger sense of protection for Lauren and Emma. It wasn't just fondness or affection. It was a deep determination to ensure they would never face hardship or abandonment again. As he prepared for bed, Nathan realized that he was slowly building something he never imagined he would want. A family. Not of blood, but of choice. And this realization instead of scaring him, brought a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in a long time. Sunday dawned with a golden clarity that announced a perfect autumn day. Nathan woke up earlier than usual, and, upon opening his bedroom curtains, was greeted by a deep blue sky with no clouds in sight. The garden glowed with the colors of autumn, red, golds, and orange, and the air had that special quality, not too warm, not too cold, just perfect. It was the kind of day that shouldn't be wasted indoors. At breakfast, Nathan found Emma particularly restless, constantly looking out the dining room window while stirring her cereal. "Is something wrong with breakfast?" he asked, observing the practically untouched bowl. "No," Emma replied, swinging her legs under the table. "It's just so pretty outside. I wish we could go to the park." "Emma," Lauren gently warned, entering the room with a pitcher of juice. "We shouldn't bother Mr. Forbes with our wishes." Nathan looked out the window again. The city park was just a few blocks from the mansion, a place he himself used to visit as a child, though it had been years since he'd been there. On days like this, it would be full of families enjoying the good weather before winter arrived. "Actually," he said, surprising himself, "a walk in the park sounds like an excellent idea." Emma's eyes widened with excitement. "Really, can we go?" "If your mother agrees," Nathan replied, looking at Lauren. Lauren seemed genuinely surprised by the suggestion. "We don't want to disrupt your Sunday if—" "It wouldn't be a disruption," he interrupted gently. "In fact, I think some fresh air would do me good." Half an hour later, the three of them were walking out the mansion gate. Nathan couldn't remember the last time he had simply gone for a walk with no specific purpose. His rare outings usually involved business meetings, mandatory social events, or necessary trips. Emma walked between them, holding her mother's hand with her left and, to Nathan's surprise, extending her right to him without hesitation. He accepted the small gesture, feeling a strange emotion as he realized how her hand fit perfectly in his. The park was just as he had imagined, full of life and color. Families were spread out on the lawn, children ran chasing balls and kites, couples walked hand in hand along the wooded paths. For a moment, Nathan felt out of place, as if he had invaded a world to which he didn't belong. But then Emma pulled his hand, pointing excitedly to the playground. "Can I go on the swings, please?" "Of course," Lauren replied, "but be careful." The girl ran towards the swings, leaving Nathan and Lauren walking side by side in a comfortable silence. "She's so happy," Lauren commented, watching her daughter, who had already found other children to play with. "Thank you for suggesting this." "It was her idea," Nathan replied, feeling strangely shy. "I just agreed." They found a bench with a good view of the playground and sat down. From there they could watch Emma play, her crystal-clear laughter occasionally reaching them. "I can't remember the last time I came to a park," Nathan confessed. "Really?" Lauren looked at him with curiosity. "Not even as a child?" "Oh, as a child, yes," he clarified. "My nanny used to bring me here sometimes, when my parents were busy, which was pretty much always." There was a hint of sadness in his voice that didn't go unnoticed by Lauren. She didn't comment, just nodded in understanding. "Emma, not so high," she called out, seeing her daughter climb one of the play structures. Nathan watched the interaction between mother and daughter, feeling a pang of something. Longing. Envy. He couldn't name it. He just knew that somehow Lauren and Emma had something precious, despite all the difficulties they had faced. "Ice cream!" Emma suddenly shouted, pointing to an ice cream vendor approaching with his colorful cart. Nathan stood up immediately. "I'll get some for us, Kay," he offered, already walking towards the vendor. He returned minutes later with 3 cones, chocolate for Emma, strawberry for Lauren, and vanilla for himself. The joy on Emma's face as she received the ice cream was contagious, and even Lauren seemed relaxed, perhaps for the first time since he'd met her. "Thank you, Mr. Forbes." Emma thanked him, already with chocolate around her mouth. "You're welcome, little one," he replied, feeling strangely happy from the simple act of providing this small pleasure. After they finished their ice cream, Emma asked to go on the carousel that spun in the center of the park. Nathan bought the tickets, and Lauren insisted he accompany Emma while she took some pictures with the old phone she carried. "I don't know." He hesitated, looking at the ride full of children and parents. "Please," Emma begged, her big, hopeful eyes fixed on him. "I'm scared to go alone." How could he refuse? Nathan found himself getting on the carousel next to Emma, who chose a white horse with gold details. He stood beside her, feeling somewhat out of place among the other adults, all clearly parents accompanying their children. But when the carousel started to turn and Emma shrieked with joy, clinging to the horse's pole, Nathan forgot his discomfort. The pure happiness on the girl's face was contagious. Every now and then, she would look back, making sure he was still there, and smile that smile that lit up her whole face. Lauren was taking pictures from the fence, waving every time they passed her. Nathan couldn't remember the last time he had felt so present. He wasn't thinking about work, about emails to answer or contracts to review. He was simply there in the moment, feeling the wind on his face and hearing Emma's laughter mixed with the cheerful music of the carousel. When the ride stopped, Emma jumped into his arms, caught up in the excitement of the moment. "That was so fun," she exclaimed, hugging his neck. "Thank you, my friend." My friend. The words hit Nathan like a ray of sunshine, warming something inside him that had been cold for a long time. It wasn't Mr. Forbes or even just Nathan. It was my friend, simple, genuine, and deeply meaningful. He carefully placed her on the ground, feeling an emotion he hadn't expected. "You're welcome, Emma," he replied, his voice slightly hoarse. The rest of the afternoon passed quickly, between games on the lawn, a visit to the small lake where they fed the ducks, and finally, tired but happy, the walk back home. Emma, exhausted from so much playing, asked Nathan to carry her halfway home. Without a second thought, he lifted her up, settling her in his arms. Within minutes, she fell asleep against his shoulder, breathing softly. "She's heavy," Lauren commented. "I can carry her now." "Don't worry," he replied, gently adjusting the girl in his arms. "It's no effort at all," Lauren smiled, a tired but genuinely happy smile. "It was a perfect day," she said quietly, as if not to wake Emma. "Thank you." "Thank you," Nathan replied, surprising himself with the sincerity in his voice. "It was the best Sunday I've had in, well, probably my entire adult life." As they walked back to the mansion, with Emma asleep in his arms and Lauren walking silently by his side, Nathan realized this day would be etched in his memory forever. A simple day, with nothing extraordinary, just a walk in the park, ice cream, a carousel, and yet somehow the most meaningful day he could remember. My friend, Emma had called him, and he realized one with surprising clarity. That was exactly what he wanted to be for her friend, her protector, someone she could trust, someone she could count on, someone who would never abandon her. Autumn was already approaching winter when Nathan realized that something had profoundly changed within him. The Forbes mansion, once a place of silence and solitude, now echoed with the sounds of life. Emma's laughter down the hall, Lauren's soft humming in the kitchen, the occasional slam of doors and windows as someone hurried past. What would have once irritated him now brought a strange comfort. On that specific night, Nathan was in his office in front of the lit fireplace, watching the flames dance as he turned thoughts over in his mind. An important decision was taking shape, something he had been considering for weeks, perhaps months, without admitting it to himself. A soft knock on the door interrupted his reflections. "Sorry, come in," he said, turning to see Lauren standing at the entrance and holding a tray with 2 cups. "I brought some tea," she explained. "I thought you might want something warm. The night has gotten quite cold." "Thank you," Nathan replied, gesturing to the armchair on the other side of the fireplace. "Would you like to keep me company for a moment?" Lauren seemed surprised by the invitation, but nodded, placing the tray on the side table before sitting down. She wore a simple blue wool sweater that matched her eyes, and her blonde hair was tied in a loose bun. Nathan noticed how comfortable she seemed in the mansion now, unlike the tense and insecure woman who had arrived months ago. "Is Emma asleep?" he asked, picking up one of the cups. "Finally," Lauren smiled. She was very excited today. She wouldn't stop talking about the school admissions test next week. Nathan smiled. In recent weeks, He had spoken with the heads of several private schools in the area, looking for the best option for Emma. He had finally decided on Westbrook Academy, a traditional and respected institution known for its arts and sciences program. Despite it being an exclusive school, the headmaster had agreed to a special assessment for Emma, considering her unique educational situation. "She'll do well," Nathan affirmed with conviction. "She's a brilliant child." Lauren nodded, but Nathan noticed the worry in her eyes. "What is it?" he asked gently. Lauren hesitated, turning the cup in her hands. "It's a very expensive school, Nathan. I know you offered to pay for the enrollment and tuition, and I'm eternally grateful, but—" She paused, searching for the words. "It's a very big commitment. What if one day you—" She didn't complete the sentence, but Nathan understood. What if one day he got tired of them? What if he decided he no longer wanted this responsibility? For Lauren, who had been abandoned before, the insecurity was understandable. "Lauren," he said, setting his cup aside, "there's something I want to talk to you about, something important." She looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Nathan took a deep breath. The words he wanted to say had been mentally rehearsed several times, but now they seemed to escape his mind. "When my parents died," he began, looking at the flames, "I inherited not only this mansion and the family business, but also a kind of void. I never had a close relationship with them. They were busy, distant people. The mansion was always too big, too cold." Lauren listened in silence, her eyes fixed on him. "There was a time I thought that would change," Nathan continued. "I was engaged, planning a life, maybe children. But then I found out she was with me only for the money, for the social benefits my name could provide. When we broke up, I decided it was better this way, alone. Safe?" He paused, gathering courage for what came next. "After my last romantic disappointment, I closed myself off from the world. I thought loneliness was enough, but everyone eventually left. Except you two. You stayed, and that changed my life." Lauren's eyes widened slightly, and Nathan saw she was holding her breath. "In these months, I've seen this house transform, gaining colors, sounds, life. I've seen Emma grow, learn, flourish. I've seen you working tirelessly, always concerned about your daughter's well-being, always grateful for the smallest things." Nathan stood up, unable to remain seated with the emotion growing inside him. He walked to the window, watching the dark night for a moment before turning back to Lauren. "I don't want you to be just guests in this house. I want you to be my family." He took a deep breath, looking directly at Lauren. "Lauren, will you let me take care of you? Emma, will you accept being my daughter?" The silence that followed seemed to last an eternity. Lauren stared at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears, a hand covering her mouth in shock. Before she could answer, however, a movement at the door caught both their attention. Emma was standing there, in her unicorn pajamas, her eyes wide and bright. "Emma!" Lauren exclaimed, recovering from the shock. "You should be asleep. How long have you been there?" But the girl didn't answer her mother. Instead, her eyes were fixed on Nathan, as if trying to determine if what she had heard was real. "Do you really want to be my daddy?" she asked, her voice small and insecure. Nathan felt his heart tighten. This wasn't how he had planned this moment, but perhaps it was even better. Yes, Emma," he answered sincerely. "I want to be your daddy, if you'll have me." For a moment, the girl remained motionless. Then, without warning, she ran across the room and threw herself into Nathan's arms with such force it almost knocked him over. He lifted her up, feeling her small arms squeezing his neck with all the strength a 6-year-old could muster. "I always wanted you to be my daddy," she whispered against his neck. Since the very first day, Nathan felt an emotion so intense he could barely breathe. He held Emma tightly against his chest, one hand stroking her golden hair. "From now on, you will have everything you deserve," he promised, his voice choked. "I will take care of you as if you were my own daughter." When he could finally look past Emma, he saw Lauren standing, tears streaming freely down her face. There was something in her eyes, gratitude, relief, and perhaps, he hoped, something more. "Lauren?" he called, extending his free hand toward her. She approached slowly, as if afraid everything might disappear if she made a sudden move. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's a huge commitment. I don't want you to do this just—" "I'm more sure of this than any other decision I've ever made in my life," Nathan interrupted. "You two have given me something I never had, a real home." "A family." Lauren touched his face gently, as if to make sure he was real. "Then yes," she finally replied. "Yes, we accept being your family." Emma, still in Nathan's arms, let out a little shriek of joy and reached out an arm to include her mother in the hug. The three of them stood like that for a long moment, united as if silently sealing a promise. Later that night, after Emma had finally gone back to bed, Nathan and Lauren remained in the room talking about the future, about plans, about the life they would build together. Not as employer and employee, not as strangers whom fate had placed under the same roof, but as a chosen family. "I want to legally adopt Emma," Nathan said, surprising Lauren. "If you agree, of course. I want to ensure she has everything she needs, always." Lauren looked at him, moved. "Do you really want that? To take legal responsibility for a child who is already my daughter in my heart," he completed. "Yes, that's exactly what I want." Lauren smiled through her tears. "Emma will be so happy. She already considers you her father, you know, right from the start." The following week, Emma passed the admissions test for Westbrook Academy with surprising scores. The headmaster praised her intelligence and curiosity, commenting that he rarely saw children so well prepared even when homeschooled. "She has extraordinary potential," the headmaster told Nathan as they signed the enrollment papers. "You're lucky to have such a dedicated father." Nathan felt an inexplicable pride at being called Emma's father for the first time in a formal setting. He didn't correct the headmaster. In his heart, it was already true. The days that followed were filled with shopping for uniforms, school supplies, and preparations for the big day. Emma was so excited she could barely sleep. Every night, she would ask Nathan to tell her what school would be like, even though he had explained it dozens of times. "There will be other children for you to play with," he would say, as he tucked her into bed. "Teachers to teach you new and interesting things. A library full of books to discover." "Bigger than ours?" Emma would ask, incredulous. "Well, maybe not bigger," Nathan would laugh, "but with many more children's books." On the morning of the first day of school, the Forbes mansion was in an uproar. Lauren helped Emma put on the navy blue uniform with the school crest, styled her hair in perfectly symmetrical braids, and checked 3 times to make sure all the supplies were in the new backpack. Nathan waited in the foyer, trying to hide his own nervousness. When Emma came down the stairs, looking simultaneously small and important in her uniform, he felt a pride he had never imagined possible. "How do I look?" she asked, twirling to show off the complete uniform. "Perfect," Nathan replied, smiling. "The most beautiful and intelligent student Westbrook Academy has ever seen." The drive to the school was in Nathan's car, with Emma in the back seat, talking non-stop about what it would be like to meet other children, have real teachers, and learn new things. "What if they don't like me?" she asked suddenly, a hint of insecurity creeping into her excited voice. "It's impossible not to like you," Nathan assured her, looking at her in the rearview mirror. "You're the most special girl in the world." When they arrived at the imposing red brick building of the academy, there were dozens of other families saying goodbye to their children. Nathan parked, and the 3 of them walked together to the main gate. Emma stopped before going in, looking at the school with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She held her mother's hand with her left, and Nathan's with her right, forming a small human chain. "Are you ready?" Lauren asked, adjusting the collar of her daughter's uniform. Emma nodded but didn't move immediately. Instead, she looked first at her mother, then at Nathan. "Thank you for everything," she said with surprising seriousness for such a small child. Lauren and Nathan looked at each other over the girl's head, an indescribable emotion passing between them. They didn't need words to share what they felt in that moment. The pride, the gratitude, the sense of completeness that neither of them had ever expected to find. Emma let go of their hands and walked confidently towards the gate, where a teacher was welcoming new students. Before entering, she turned one last time and waved, her smile lighting up her face like a small sun. "It feels like a dream," Lauren commented quietly, as they watched Emma disappear inside the building. "No," Nathan replied, gently taking her hand. It's much more real than any dream I've ever had. They walked back to the car hand in hand, in a comfortable silence full of unspoken promises. The mansion that awaited them was no longer just a large building of stone and wood, but a true home. And the man who had once lived surrounded only by his own silence had finally found the true meaning of the word family. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.